It's worth the trip.
So sign up now.
Yeah. Hey, if you haven't been to a conference, the humorous speech contest is always a big favorite of mine. Second manual evaluator is Tom Durant. Tom, would you come up and give your evaluation for John?
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and John. John's speech was done off the cuff, but it was one of the topics that he selected. So he did have the opportunity to do some preparation for the speech. The first thing I'm going to say is I thought it was well prepared and well presented. All of the technical things I think you did well, and I'm sure that I could say more about that, but I'm going to let the other three talk about those specific things, and I'm going to say a little bit more about the content. Reading the manual project, I got the impression that this was the kind of a speech that you would give if you were asked to talk to a specific group. And one of the things that it emphasized was you speak on something that you would be knowledgeable about. That's why you were asked to speak at that group, and that's one of the things I want to comment about a little bit more on John's approach in the speech. The manual talked about how it was organized, and it talks about using patterns. This is what kind of suggests what you do if you don't know for sure what you're going to be speaking on. The organization appeared to me to be what John did was he ticked off the 4 or 5 topics of energy that he was familiar with and said something about each. I think that's a logical way to do it. I noticed you overlooked nuclear, but I suspect you just forgot about it. And then the patterns used, the pattern that was talked about was to consider the political, economic, and social aspects of the topic. That was the pattern as I gathered. Was there a clear and definite message? The message was, well, express your opinion to your legislatures, whatever your opinion might be. I was a little bit underwhelmed by that, and the reason is because I would have liked to have known what your opinion was, and I recognize it depends on who your audience is as to what you're actually going to say, and since we really don't know who you're speaking other than this group, but I was a little disappointed. You kind of said, well, these are the issues, but you really didn't say this is where I stand on those issues, and maybe different people have different opinions. I was a little bit disappointed in that personally. The other thing that was mentioned was that it implied that the speaker should be knowledgeable about the subject, and you didn't tell us. You were obviously well informed, but you didn't tell us what your background or your expertise was, and I think that would have been helpful. It says you should do it somewhat modestly and inobtrusively, but I think it would have been appropriate to say, well, this is why I know about this topic. And those are probably the main things that I would suggest. Main suggestions was the opinion and basis for your knowledge. But with that, I'm going to let the other evaluators speak. And since I'm a little new at this process, I've forgotten who the other evaluators are. So I'm just going to ask for whoever who's going to be doing the visual part of the evaluation to identify themselves, and it's Kathy. Drew a blank there. Come on up, Kathy, and
Thank you, Tom. I take my job, John, literally. I was a visual evaluator, and it says, imagine that you were watching the speaker while the volume was on mute. So I started to plug my ears, and then I thought, wait a minute, then I won't hear your speech. So I did that for about 10 seconds, but I honed in on all of your visual aspects of your speech. What I liked well about your speech is that you are very good at scanning the audience. You went back and forth, scanning very well. You have a very unique, and you're doing it right now, Use of your eyebrows. Nobody in this room moves their eyebrows like you do all the time. That could be used to your advantage in presenting ideas. You just did one. I don't know how you did that. And putting forth what you have to say with your eyebrows. I did like the fact that you were stationary and didn't move very much in your speech. The reason for that is I'm going to give you some areas of improvement. One is that you move your hands a lot. You're up here, you're over here, you're down here, like that. And that was a little distracting to me as I'm watching it just visually. I would suggest cutting down on your movements, your hand movements, and making them more deliberate for the points. And I personally don't have a problem with being more stationary. I know it's because of the microphone, but I think I watched a speaker one time stay in one place for 6 hours and just use hand gestures, and she was so effective, I couldn't believe it. Standing in one place. On your eye movement, you did well scanning the audience, but the thing that disconnected for me is that you actually did not give eye contact that much. Scanned really well, but I think Louise has this 2-second rule, or somebody I heard give a speech. 2 seconds. Kind of look this way, that way, connect with your audience, and go that way. So scanning, but giving more eye contact. And what I really liked about your speech, again, is your facial expressions and your use of, those could be used to emphasize points because of the way that your eyebrows go. Should I bring up the verbal evaluator? Okay.
Thank you. Kathy Simonson, since I didn't introduce her properly at the beginning. Okay, who is the verbal evaluator? It's Dan Plouse. Come on up, Dan.
John, I actually sat with my back to you today so that I could just concentrate on what you sounded like. One thing was the language. You used language that wasn't over my head. I think it was appropriate for the audience. You had a very, very dry subject. I heard some moans when your topic title was introduced, Public Energy Policy. Your volume. I could hear you. With my back to you, sitting at the back of the audience, I could hear you. Your grammar. I didn't hear ums and ahs. I didn't hear any of those. I thought your grammar was very well done. Vocal variety. You had clue, oil, and it's clean. One thing that I would like to say for improvement on that was that your vocal variety always focused on words. Clue. It was on words. And I'm thinking that the longest thing that you used where you expressed vocal variety was, or to ship it out to foreign countries. You used a whole sentence that was up in a little different range. And I think that your speech, it lacked a little bit of passion, a little bit of commitment. And I think that when you just do words, a word over here and a word over here, it doesn't come across. I think that what you need to do is perhaps do sentences of passion or sentences of excitement. And I think that will make your speech come alive. Your speech, when I was sitting in that chair backwards, it was alive. You kept me interested. You kept me engaged. But I think that if you would have done a little more extreme on the pitches with sentences rather than words, I think that I would have a better focus on what you were saying. And I think that would have put the passion in there that I needed to hear in your speech. I don't know how you put any passion in that topic, actually. Thank you, Tom, for picking that. And the big plus I'd like to leave you with is that you actually remind me of someone that I have heard on the radio. Mr. Toastmaster, or evaluator.
Whatever I am. Then the last topic area is content, right? And that is Lloyd Smith. All right.
Thank you. Content is interesting when it comes to impromptu speaking. I'm actually going to be expanding a bit on what Tom said, I think. I learned during my years of coaching and then my years of doing contest impromptu speaking, organization is the toughest thing to get a grip on in impromptu speaking. And that's simply because you don't know what the topic is going to be in advance. Now, you know your general topic, but here's where the problem hit, I think. I'm problem, not horrible problem, but problem. That topic is so broad. I mean, as you well know, there are probably thousands of books written about it. It doesn't fit well in a 5 to 7 minute speech. It begged to be limited somehow, and I wish you had done that right at the start. You know, I'm going to concentrate on whatever aspect of energy policy. I think it would have been easier for you to do, because although you had a phenomenal attention